Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, what's up? We're talking Packers. Go, Pack, go.
Was that our biggest fight we ever had?
Yeah, the 5 versus
how many
6.
how many notes were in the
I thought it was banana.
There was some.
You knew there was a
opinions in the
6th one.
streets.
You knew there was a 6th one, and I thought there was.
I've been dealing with their shit for a long time. Back when I was a strong Vikings fan, nothing hurt more than. I mean, if you were a Vikings fan, if you are Bears, Lions, like it's been a lot of that bullshit. It's been a lot of dealing with, Favre pulling shit out of his ass, Rodgers playing well above what I ever thought he would be when he got drafted, and then they can't keep getting away with it.
Time is a flat circle, man. Love playing well above where you think he'd be at for considering where he got drafted. But it's let's just jump right into it, man, because we got some bet bashing to get to. Let's start off by kind of really asking the most important question about the Packers, which is, are they overrated or are they underrated? Because I don't think they're properly rated. It's one or the other. And it all kind of comes down to the fact that you have a quintessential example of a team that finished last year exceeding expectations consistently down the stretch. And those teams tend to be darlings in the eyes of prognosticators, both professional and just talking heady, the following year. Because what do we remember the most recently? We remember Jordan Love slinging it all over the yard against the Dallas Cowboys, getting us win as a 7-point dog on the road.
Not a win,
going into San Francisco. Oh yeah,
not a win.
Just delivering an ass kicking. Yes.
Shellacking.
Delivering an ass kicking.
Dallas was very bad.
Yeah, and then he backed it up with almost beating the Niners. Crazy.
I feel like I had some Niners second half or something in the end where I was cheering for the Niners to end up with the win.
Yeah, for sure.
But I remember not feeling good about it at all for almost all of the game. I think I was in Chicago watching it at a bar. And
I was wine tasting that day, and I was a real drunk.
I remember people being mad.
Well, I don't remember a lot of what happened other than the outcome.
That was a fun one because there were some Packer fans there, and one of the bartenders was too. And when the Packers did well, he'd ring a bell or something, and a bunch of people were starting to get really mad.
Yeah.
Chicago bar. It was a fucking Bears bar. Stop that shit. There was a couple people getting worked.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Andy.
Here's
the thing. You know, everybody comes out of last year God damn, that team was good, right? They were 9-8. This is a team that had some growing pains. It's a team that replaced their defensive coordinator. Joe Barry not calling the defense anymore, thank God.
Take a step out of Green Bay.
Hopefully we'll not confuse him with Joe Woods. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, get out of the whole state of Wisconsin. Just put yourself up in space, on the moon, and talk about reasons that a team would take a regret. A team with, let's say, mostly the same roster, especially in most of the important parts. What are some big reasons we've seen teams take a big step back off a successful season that weren't, hey, their quarterback got hurt the next year? It is. I mean, you see when it's an offense that's seemingly easy to solve for. Sustainable.
Sure.
I know that's kind of an ambiguous answer, but I'm just trying to think
when you have a young quarterback that still has learning to do, and defenses have a whole year to
catch up,
eat the tape, and come up with a game plan on how to stop them. That's pretty commonly what happens, right?
Yeah.
Were you looking for specific examples, or you just wanted to?
No. I was just kind of overarching thoughts on that. But in my mind, even if Hafley is not the long-term answer for DC, it's a step up just based on every quote I've read about how he plans on calling a defense, how he managed defenses when he was a head coach in college. I don't think you took a step back at running back. I think you probably improved in a few spots. Your defense is roster-wise is as good as far as what you have, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
And your wide receiver room likely is healthier.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm actually disagreeing with the overrated, underrated. I'm kind of on market with this team. Maybe I am a little high. So I have this team right now as like my seventh or eighth best team in the league. Probably pretty close. Actually, eighth. So they're my eighth best team. I would have this team right now worse than Philadelphia.
Really?
Of the teams we've talked about yet.
I'm going to need to know what your special teams rating is because I'm not that high.
A little worse than Buffalo.
Yes.
Not by much.
I'm pretty... Okay,
better than Dallas, better than Miami.
Better than Dallas.
Better
than a team that the last game Dallas played, they were closed 7-point favorites against.
Mm-hmm. And I have, to be fair, that was on the road.
Jordan Love's first playoff game also. So there was a little bit of a
very
built-in bias there, yeah.
And that's another thing, too. You got your playoff win out of the way with your young quarterback. I have this team very close to Houston, which is a fun comp because that's the other team that people want to like, hey, is Houston going to take a step back or are they taking this huge step forward? And all the prices for both these teams are kind of unbettable considering the ceiling isn't that much higher because the ceiling is, you got playoff wins already last year. The ceiling is like a couple more playoff wins. You're getting close to it as it is. So I don't love the prices on Houston or Green Bay. It's funny they're next to each other because I have them alphabetical.
The reason I say that it's an overrated or underrated question is because you either are kind of upweighting what you saw late and using that to build forward, in which case you're over market.
Mm-hmm.
You're expecting progression from all of the young players, particularly on offense, so you're over market. Or like you're saying, you're looking at a team that you think got a little bit of lucky with schedule, a little lucky with injuries, a little lucky with turnovers, and now you have a full year of tape of Jordan Love, so defensive coordinators, particularly in division, can put together a game plan that effectively, kind of brings out his weaknesses, which we saw. Like, there were some mixed results on the tape if you just pull it in random order. Now, when you put it in sequence, it looks like a player progressing. So it's entirely believable that he would be much better in January than he was in October. But, certainly the idea of there being weaknesses and defensive coordinators having some answers this year, I think is on the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think that's
schedule's tougher.
The crux of the whole what happens is maybe less on Jordan Love, although it's obviously apparently a bunch of it is on Jordan Love, but I think a lot of it's more on LaFleur. And, we've had this discussion for the last few years. Is LaFleur a good coach? Is he a great coach? Is he just okay? And he's had, these quarterbacks that have done it. And obviously the draft plans have gone really well at some of the positions they've, acquired over the past few years. Like, I think this is probably the prove it year for LaFleur because a good coach can take a good quarterback who sounds like he has a quarterback's coach that he loves and works well with.
Yeah.
A good coach can take that and, hitting on a bunch of pieces in the draft, young receivers, a good running back last year, and win a playoff game. You should probably go to the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game. But a great coach can elevate that. A great coach will be 2 steps ahead of the defenses. Because while defenses adjust, an offense should always have the advantage.
Oh, yeah.
A defense is still reactive. So if you can be 2 steps ahead of the defensive adjustments, then for sure it's like LaFleur. And I don't know what his coach of the year price is this year, Patrick. I'm sure it's a little higher, but I think, like 3 or 4 more wins, he's in that conversation. And they just it was uneven. There was injuries. Watson missed chunks of time. I think several receivers missed chunks of time. Aaron Jones missing time was super problematic, not just because he was great, but because Dylan is a little dusty. They didn't have a great chunk of depth there. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe it is either. Like the expectations are so high now. You have to win coach of the year before you do something, because after you've done something, then it's expected. It's just like, I don't think Andy Reid could coach 20 more years, win 10 more Super Bowls. I don't know if he could ever win it. It's
just for the purposes of those who may be curious, the current price for Matt LaFleur coach of the year is $11.25 plus $11.25. So it's a little more than 11-1. He is the 6th choice behind in order at offshore, 6th choice in order behind Saleh, Eberflus, Harbaugh,
Which one?
Jim Harbaugh,
Specific.
Shane Steichen, and Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is your 5th choice for Coach of the Year. We're not making a joke. This is not an extension of the bit.
He's getting Ayuk.
He is the 5th choice. So I, if you said, hey, here's a bucket of 6, you must take one. I'm probably taking Steichen over LaFleur, but LaFleur is definitely in the conversation. He's definitely a guy that deserves to be in that top of the board. I think. I guess that's just it. Like if you're asking me, what is the proof of concept that LaFleur is good this year? It is a
division win.
You jump the lines.
Yeah, it has. You have to. You have to
jump the lines. Yeah, you have to take a 9-8 team, and you have to build on your success, and you got to win 11, 12 games. You got to win the North, and that probably comes with a top 2 seed, realistically.
We're not asking for like the Bears or the Vikings to win the division. The Packers, on paper, in the market, in our ratings, it's close. It's close-ish. So it's not like this huge ask. And if he can do that, for sure, I think we elevate LaFleur to this echelon of all the big names that we have right there with Reed.
Yeah. And so I guess I look at like what they did last year, and they exceeded expectations in the regular season last year. I don't know if you remember, they were 50-1 to win the Super Bowl preseason. Their win total was 7.5. Like people looked at that offense in particular, and all of those kids, because it was the youngest offense that I think I've ever evaluated, and they were like, this could suck. This could go sideways. No one had high confidence on Jordan Love. How good you'd barely seen him play. His handful of starts at the NFL level were awful. And so I think there was reason to be somewhat skeptical that they were going to find much success. And we were halfway through the season.
Awful competition. I believe it. I thought he had some good starts at the end of the year before, but it was just kind of hey, he didn't. I mean, those weren't like super indicative of success. He played some backups, and I'm gonna have to go back and look at 2022 because
all I remember is he played one game against the Chiefs, and it was like, this kid is not ready. He started one game against Chiefs, and it was bad.
I think the evaluation was we certainly didn't see anything that says like this guy, a bunch of rookie and second-year wide receivers, 2 rookie tight ends, a dinged up Aaron Jones, AJ.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If you dropped into our pod from the future, Bill and Ted style, on October 30th,
Wild
Monday,
Stallions,
on the night of October 29th, which was the last Sunday of the season, they're wrapping up a recap of Week 8, and you said, "Hey, you see that Green Bay team that just got like thoroughly beaten by the Vikings?" 24-10. They're going to beat the Cowboys in the playoffs this year. Yeah, the Cowboys team that was just running amok against. They would just look like scorched earth on the mediocre NFL last year.
And then
we would have said
they should have beaten the Niners.
They
should have been in the NFC.
They were 2-5. Yeah, they were 2-5. This season was over. There were serious questions swirling about, do you continue to play Love? I promise you can find some takes. They probably did a first take segment on Packers missed. They finally missed.
This is a good point. Dallas fans
finally missed.
Dallas could have been 10-0.
Dallas fans would have
setting
believed
scoring
them.
Records. Dallas
You're
fans
right.
would be like, yeah, that sounds right.
You're right. You're very right, Nick. Nick C. Good comment. I mean, it didn't feel possible that you could have turned around to that degree, and it still took a couple weeks before you were really like watching them and saying, okay, they figured it out now. And for me, the turning point for them in the season was the Thursday morning game on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions, where they went to Detroit. This is a team in the Lions that beat their pants off in week 4. Like went to Green Bay and literally were like, no, we're the captains now. This is now our division. We are going to smother you. And they went off as, I want to say, 8-point favorites. Yes, they closed as 8-point favorites against the Packers in Detroit in Ford Field on Turkey Day. And the Packers came in with a good game plan. Jordan Love executed it brilliantly. They took some chances.
You had trouble with the Packers mid-season with your pricing Because it was
Oh,
odd.
yeah.
Because 2 weeks prior to that, they lost to the Steelers, who were a team that was just like completely predicated on putting something together defensively and hoping for the best. And then they rattle off wins, Chargers or whatever, but rattle off Chargers at Lions, home versus Kansas City, and then lose to the Giants. It was a tough team to price. Those Giants and the Bucs game was just
I can
that was a
almost
good Bucs
repeat
game. That was
my
a
I
good
can
Bucs
almost repeat my
So
handicap
hard.
for you of that Lions game, which was I'll lay the points for the Lions. I don't care. I'll put the Lions in teaser. This is teaser leg of the week of the millennium.
Teaser leg of the
teaser leg of the
century.
century. Yes, yeah. These guys remember. And the reasoning was you had these absolutely absurd splits for Jordan Love between first half and second half. When he was in scripted offense in the first half of games, he was putrid EPA per play. And then all of a sudden, and he would second half of games, things would get a little weird. They would go a little off script. He was improvising a little bit. Defenses didn't really know what to do. He all of a sudden was making magic. And it was like, okay, well, the Lions are bullies. If you let them get out to a good start and you're struggling in the first half, then this is game over. Might as well just wait for the Cowboys game. But the opposite happened, and Jordan Love was magnificent on the first couple of drives. Apparently, before that game, Love and LaFleur, live, laugh, love, had a little kumbaya, and Love said, "Let me open it up. Let's take the top off this motherfucker."
We talked about Houston off the top.
Yeah,
they had like that same conversation where
and the background was LaFleur wanted to take the play that really kind of that really synthesized all of the confidence in Jordan Love. He was going to take that play out of the game plan. He's going to take it out of the script, but he left it in. Love completes it. And the rest is really history because the defense of the Green Bay Packers played fine in that game, but it was really the offense. Goff was pretty bad.
Goff was bad. I don't know if Goff was great in comeback mode sometimes.
He was not. No, he was not.
It wasn't ideal for the Lions. And as we found out as the year went on, the Lions secondary would get worse and worse and worse and worse until the end of the year where it's like, this is a secondary that's going to give up 600 yards a game and they still might win because that's the makeup of this team. Yeah. I think they got outgained in every game in the playoffs and they were in the NFC title game.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They had the offense to make up for it, but boy, that defense really stunk. And that was kind of the start of you getting to see that.
Yeah. And I think, so that was an eye-opening wake-up call. Like, okay, this is all of a sudden now a little bit of a different spin on the Jordan Love experience. He can play 4 quarters now. He's not just a second half guy. And I think Jordan Love probably was the single most consequential human in survivor pools last year. He knocked out all the Detroiters. He knocked out all the Detroiters on Thanksgiving, and then he knocked out all of the Packers takers against that Giants game. Like he winnowed the pool down to a very narrow few. And if you navigated the 2 Jordan Love pivot points correctly, then you were in the end. And if you didn't, you were out. And I don't know that we've had much like that before in the world of high leverage stakes games. But no,
we didn't used to have I think old school survivor tournaments didn't used to have the got to pick a Thanksgiving game. And I think I think that's an excellent addition to the strategy involved because it makes it really hard. And it's early enough in the season where you can chop a big chunk of the pool. It's not cool to have like 500 people tie.
Yeah. Yeah. Jordan Love followed up his breakout performance against the Lions by beating Pat Mahomes, albeit he was assisted by the referees not calling the most obvious pass interference penalty that was adjudicated all year.
Are you asking me to feel bad for the Chiefs? I'm
asking you to feel bad for people that were on, on Chiefs second half, which should have probably gotten home if they call that penalty correctly. But I digress. Then they lost to the Giants. They couldn't cover against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went against Carolina, but it was ugly. Carolina's only good performance of the year. But you know what they did, Andy? They finished covering 4 straight games. And when you cover 4 straight games,
out of the Vikings, which needed to happen.
Yes.
You beat the Bears, that needed to happen.
And then you had your crowning moment against the Dallas Cowboys. And yes, covered against the Niners. You finished the season covering 4 straight games. People are just going to have a rosy impression of you coming into the next year. It happens every year. It happens every year. Like there's no bloom off the rose. Like hey, Andy, they're riding a cover streak. This team is riding a cover streak, and people know it. And so I think there's, if anything, there's a little bit of kind of just a real healthy dose of optimism for them this year, which is reflected by some of the prices we're talking about, reflected by the fact that it is not entirely unreasonable to expect another step forward from this program overall. And I would say, 12 wins puts LaFleur in the conversation for Coach of the Year. It puts the Packers in the conversation for top 2 seed. It puts Love in the conversation for MVP. But I also think all of those are very crowded markets, and 12's probably not enough to put him into favorite status for any of those things. Would you agree?
And it's not like it's a 20-1 number where
they're not.
You could be actively taking other coaches. He's
15-1 MVP.
If 18, 20-1, it makes it a little easier to talk yourself into that and say, I can grab some other coaches later on when it becomes apparent it's a 3-horse race, something along those lines. I haven't handicapped Coach of the Year completely, but it's fun how you can just start like crossing names off. Like,
I love that.
Guess what? The Browns. You know what? The funniest thing, the Browns can win the division for the first time since '89.
Yeah,
I think they'd have to win 15 games for him to get a chance at it, just because he's won it twice now.
I love it.
Like it's the silliest rules. It's like the hey, we want good form in our golfers. Unless they win last week, then there's no chance I can bet him this week. He can't win twice in a row. That's ridiculous. Like, why would I bet that guy having good form? So, Packers offseason was quietish.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have a young nucleus. Xavier McKinney is a big move. Jeff Hafley. I'm going to have to decide if it's Hafley or Hafley. Someone might have to correct me. Maybe somebody of the Irish descent. If you are a Boston guy, maybe you can help me out with this because he was out there. But they're saying he's been a good fit. They say it's going to help a lot with the pass rush. Rashawn Gary, Wyatt, some of those guys really like what he's brought as far as getting them. I don't know enough about scheme and defensive line play to understand like why some players are better when they're lined up a little wider with their hand in the dirt. I think it has to do with their skill set and what kind of skills they implement to pass rush. But Rashawn Gary seems very pumped in his quotes about getting his hand back in the dirt instead of standing up from a 3-4. Okay. And then the swapping. Yeah, he's very good. The swapping out of running backs. So yeah. I don't think I don't think you can come and say like this is some negative because Aaron Jones is very, very good. And honestly, in the scheme in Minnesota, he might be even better. But this was a guy who was the leading rusher 2 years ago, played what? We had one good offensive lineman in Las Vegas. Yeah. And he played for a pretty shitty team, still had like 1,100 scrimmage yards. He's a capable, 1,500-yard guy this year for sure.
Yeah, you forgot maybe the most important thing that happened in the offseason for the Packers, which was Jordan Love was playing on a prove-it deal last year.
Yeah,
they tore that deal up, and they wrote him a new big boy check. So it is now the Jordan Love era instead of the Jordan Love question mark. And for better or worse, this is the future of the franchise. And I guess the key question I have for you was there enough good on tape, enough progression to warrant making that decision now? And do we have to kind of be positive and applaud an organization like this for making that move? Because like we were openly critical. Fuck are the Cowboys doing? They're being idiots. Like you have blue chip players who you're going to have to pay. Just do it. Like the Packers did it. Like they just did it. And they're not going to put themselves over a barrel where they're going to have to reset the market next year even more aggressively, even longer if you do get an MVP caliber season out of Jordan Love, warts and all. So, I guess, did you see enough to kind of give them an attaboy for
I don't know. I'm so bad at judging this, and I'll be truthful. In all the prep I did with the Packers last week when I put my notes together, and then everything I did touching it up today, I didn't think about this contract a single time until you brought it up,
Wow.
because I don't give a shit. I'm putting together a power. I'm putting together a power number for 2024. I don't give a fuck about his contract. No, but it's funny. Like I did that to you with the.
Well, it impacts how.
I know, but
for sure.
Maybe that's hard to say. Quantify that for me, Drew. Like, it's not something I can quantify. That's what I'm saying. I hate to give you the same thing I said about Kirk Cousins, but I really don't give a shit.
Hey man,
that
if
said,
nerves of a playoff, if nerves of playoff experience can affect performance, nerves of I gotta perform this year or I'm not getting paid once, right? Like so getting paid again versus getting paid once. There's a notable
spectrum
difference.
Then. Spectrum then.
Sure.
0 is I don't have a contract status I'm even thinking about. And then negative, positive. After you get paid, there's some, if you put every player ever, let's just say every quarterback ever, there might be a select few who actually maybe get a little worse.
Yeah.
Because like I got paid, I don't have that pressure. Maybe I don't have to put in the effort. I'm not trying
disease of more.
I think those are not good traits to have in anybody, or much less an NFL player. But I'd say most of the people would probably skew towards what you're saying, where the pressure's off a little.
Yeah.
And it lets them play a little looser. And
every bad game isn't literally, am I going to have a job next year? Because guess what? Like if Jordan Love doesn't finish that Thanksgiving to Niners playoff almost,
we're probably not.
He doesn't have that stretch. Was he?
Yeah.
If he doesn't do, like, honestly, like that was a prove it year for him, and he came very close to not proving it.
Yeah, and like you said, if he has some fantastic year this year, you're putting together a way big contract. Like it was probably the right move.
Yeah, and you're starting the draft with what Pat Mahomes did in terms of length, which is there's no guarantee. You're not going to have already won Super Bowl at the time that you do put that contract together, which makes it spooky.
Considering what they're paying so many of their skill position players anyway, like it was a good time. You had the room for it.
Yeah, right.
It's an important position.
Okay.
The only time we've really seen this blow up recently was the Daniel Jones contract.
Daniel Jones, right?
And I really hate to put too much a negative spin on that, because the rest of the roster on the offensive side of the ball has been so atrocious that I honestly don't know if he's that bad. It's just a bad team, and it's been bad luck. It's been bad luck drafting or bad process, bad results. Like Daniel Jones might not be that bad, but boy, that's been a bad team for a bit now.
Yeah. Okay. The parallels are a little bit disconcerting the more you dig into that in terms of
turn this
what
off,
got you
fans. You don't
in terms of what got you that deal. But no, I think I don't know. I think it was worth doing, and the length doesn't spook me it has not handicapped your ability to field a team this year, because as you mentioned, they did pay for a running back, which I don't really get, but okay. I think I'm going to criticize every team that signed a running back in free agency this year, even though the deals were all very reasonable. I think everybody should basically try to do what the Rams are doing and field a backfield with two rookies effectively, or two, rookie contract guys, and get it done with blocking and scheme.
Two, who knows?
What do I know? Yeah.
No, I would agree. I don't hate it though. Like if you can sign a top 3 guy, and I really do think it's probably a top 3 running back. We saw a really electric season from him 2 years ago. I don't hate it. It's probably too much for a running back, but when you're spending just fucking nothing at wide receiver, tight end, go ahead, have a treat yourself. Treat yourself to a little running back. The draft was Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle, Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, defensive back Javon Bullard, and some other defensive depth pieces. Like we said, Xavier McKinney was a huge signing. He's a very, very good safety. They signed Josh Jacobs, as we just mentioned a couple times. They signed a couple offensive line and defensive depth pieces. Lost Bakhtiari, who is – I didn't want to bring this up right away. I don't even know if I want to bring this up. Like, there's a lot of chatter in, like, Green Bay internet land that Bakhtiari's coming back.
Really?
Because he hasn't caught on anywhere. They didn't really part ways with him because he sucked. It was just, boy, we cannot pay you. what we have to pay you at, where you're at in your career. And he was still okay. And they could use some depth. So there's like some, I don't know if there's fire, but there's some smoke saying he might end up back there, because they could use some depth. They could use some help. Lost Devondre Campbell. That matters. Aaron Jones absolutely matters. Runyon matters, but it feels like they replaced him, properly. And then, Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens safeties are gone. But boy, Xavier McKinney is a very, very good player to backfill anything he lost at safety.
Yeah, it sure is. I would look at if Rasheed Walker goes down, who's your current starter for left tackle, who's a 2022 7th round pick, that's Andre Dillard music, and Andre Dillard does not play at a replacement level. So
no, I think you would almost certainly have to move.
You're shuffling.
You'd move Jordan. You'd move the rookie, maybe
Jordan
to
Morgan.
left tackle. He's playing. He's going to start at a guard spot, most likely the right guard, and he's a tackle. So it's not ideal, but you're putting a good player out there in the right spot. So he might move, and then you'd end up with like Sean Ryan or Royce Newman or somebody else filling in at guard. You don't have the best depth.
Okay. All right. Well, Bakhtiari would be interesting, I guess. But overall, like, it was a pretty quiet free agency. I still wonder, like, why go in the direction of Josh Jacobs over Aaron Jones, considering everything else in your whole offense is homegrown, like good chemistry, like young players. Like, I guess Josh Jacobs is young enough, but I kind of would rather just see them kick the tires on like a Marshawn Lloyd if you weren't going to pay Aaron Jones, or if you wanted to cut Aaron Jones, but whatever. So we'll see if Josh Jacobs can earn it. I did think they were pretty horrifically bad in short yardage last year, and Josh Jacobs is kind of good at that. So maybe that does help the offense sustain a little bit better. That was
a big part of missing Jones at times too. Like, Jones is a sneaky good short yardage guy, after contact guy.
If only they had like a fullback type running back that really had power, that could get those hard yards. Oh wait, they have AJ Dillon, who somehow can't do that. Very weird that he cannot do the one thing that you would think he would be good at. Anyway, it's a young offense. It's still young. It's still one of the youngest in the NFL. It's still one of the most inexperienced in the NFL, despite having a full year of playing together last year. There's still lots of growing to do. And interestingly enough, their current depth chart has Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed as your starting left-right slot. And all of the advanced metrics, my numbers say that Tavian Wicks might be your best wide receiver. You have great depth at the tight end position. So you kind of have this embarrassment of riches in terms of depth at skill position groups, it's receiver and tight end. So it's resilient as resilient as you can possibly be, in that you're not depending on one or two guys, and that you have a lot of different looks and a lot of guys who do different things. So really well composed roster on the offensive side. Defensive side of the ball, you have a very weird combination of guys who have not lived up to the draft pedigree that you've put into their selections in the first couple of rounds of the draft, and then overperforming guys who you've gotten late. And now you're bringing in Xavier McKinney to try to shore up one of the positions that was really giving you hell in terms of staffing. So scheme is going to be the big question there. And I think overall, I don't know that I would really do much differently, but certainly Brian Gutekunst is going to get a ton of credit and a ton of flowers this year if Green Bay takes another step forward, because these are all homegrown players for the most part. And it's up to LaFleur and that coaching staff to continue to coach these guys up. So that's sort of the test.
I looked at the ratings and I looked at a few other things, and I'm like, all right, Dontavian Wicks is a small sample size issue, but he was out there for 500 snaps last year. 300 and plus were routes run. Like, he had a very good rating. He was a boon to the run blocking scheme. He probably should be your starter opposite, Watson instead of Doubs, with Reed in the slot. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, it's a forward-thinking offense. We're going to have some 4 wide receiver sets. We're going to have some guys rotating in and out. Obviously, we have injury issues. One thing I did want to mention, which was exciting, and I don't know, I'm sure you guys are students of the game, and you do a lot of research too, but I hadn't spent a lot of time in the Packers, kind of still catching up from vacation. And what do you remember the most about Christian Watson last year, Drew? In one word, name
Hamstring?
a part of his body. Name a part of his hamstring. So that's been an ongoing thing, not just last year, for years. So he went in, met with some specialists at like the University of Wisconsin, and they said his, similar to like most teenagers' arms, where one is a lot stronger after they get to a certain age, one of his legs was like 20% stronger. And they said like, hey, that's just not good. Like that sort of imbalance. It says nobody's legs are, everyone's feet are different sizes slightly, and your legs are different lengths a little bit. But they said 20% is too much. Like this is probably causing you to injure yourself. And it's not something I guess you would maybe notice until you went in and said, like, why do I keep hurting my hamstring? But they're pretty confident that this was why you keep fucking up your hamstring, is one of your legs is so much stronger. So he's worked, I think the goal was 6% difference is where you wanted to be. So, I mean, yeah, he should, like Brian said, single leg deadlifts. He's probably just doing like, hey, this other leg has to get worked out solo a bunch, and you got to get him in some sort of stasis. So okay. I know that's a lot of ifs and buts, candies and nuts, but if that turns, I just think it'll be really funny if that'll be like, he just never misses a game for the rest of his career, plays like next 10 years, never misses a snap because of some doctor, that's like, oh, this leg's way too strong. You gotta get the other one back up to snuff, buddy.
Okay.
So I mean, hopefully,
I didn't know any of that.
They did seem kind of confident. So if you have Watson out there for the full complement of snaps, obviously huge.
Yeah, he's a game breaker for sure. I mean, I feel like this offense evolves as Wicks is your every down guy, your middle of the field, your short middle yardage guy. Watson is your game breaker, and then your off pace, your off speed stuff is
Reed and the tight ends can be huge in possession, receiving. Yeah. And
your depth is Dubs, but whatever. We'll see how they get on. What do you rank QBOC? Because this was a little tough.
7.
Yeah, I'm at 7 too. Okay, so here's where I want to know: like, would you have had Dable and Danny Jones at a 7 coming off of a playoff win?
They just won a playoff game. They won Coach of the Year. I'm gonna have to go looking back.
I don't think I would have. The EPA per play stuff wasn't all that different. I mean,
that Minnesota defense was embarrassing.
The impossible thing is, we have to acknowledge that this is a volatile number. This is not stable. 7. This can go down quick. This can go down. This could go up to an 8. This could go down to a 3, in my opinion. If something doesn't work, right? If there's a huge step backwards, I think we should be prepared for it. And I say that knowing that it's not likely. It's probably going to stay fragile. High, but it's fragile. Thank you. That's a very good way to put it. And most of my thought on that is that like it was a really small sample size where they were really good, and it came at a good time of the year to be really good, and it came against elite competition, particularly at the end of the year. But it's still small.
I know it's so small, but the fact that it was Dallas and San Francisco, the fact that they did it in the clutch against some, teams that you're well better than Minnesota, Chicago, Carolina.
They had to win. They had to win those games to get in. Yeah, their playoffs started week 17. Yeah.
I mean,
they lose 16. Either of those games. They lose any of those games.
Carolina, Minnesota, and
they lose any of those games, they're out. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So yeah, I agree. It's very fragile. I think my offensive line number is too. I went kind of high on that, and
like where are you? Let's talk about. So we agree on 7, right? I would. Mm-hmm. I think that I have more confidence in other quarterbacks that we gave 7s, but less confidence in their offensive counterparts. I would kind of argue that, and or in the case of Miami, more confidence in the offensive counterpart and less confidence in the quarterback. But I had 7 for Jacksonville, 7 for Philly, 7 for Miami, and I'm giving 7 to Green Bay. So I'm at the same number for these combinations across those 4 teams, and I feel fine.
For same kind of comparison sakes, I had a 7 for Philly. and I had a 6.5 for Miami, a 7.5 for Houston, and a 7.5 for Dallas. So in that range. It's hard. And like you said, I think this is more fragile than some of those other ones for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So skill position group, where are you at?
7 as well.
Me too. Jesus, man, we're going to come on.
It's a good number. It's a good number. Like
good
you have all these Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks, 70 plus PFF grades. Dubs is right there. Kraft is saying he's playing in Brazil. He's back from his injury. Musgrave is very good. Josh Jacobs should not be viewed as a downgrade. I don't know what else you can say. Like Musgrave and Kraft is
fewer AJ Dillon touches. Is that all we're asking for here?
If everyone's healthy, you have 4+ receivers. You have 2+ tight ends and a good starting running back. It's a pretty good group. But we've had injuries, and again, it's smaller sample sizes with all these guys. We haven't seen it for multiple years, so it's a very fun group.
Okay. We're on the same page. So what's your line number?
6.5.
Okay, you're higher than me. I'm at 5.5 here.
I wondered about this, and this is extremely fragile because of the depth. I like Rasheed Walker at left tackle.
He's the guy?
Yes, so this was extremely difficult, was actually piecing together what this offensive line is going to be, because if you did this a month ago, I could have told you like Elgton Jenkins he's your left guard. Okay. Josh Myers is your center. And from there, I'm assuming Tom is one of the tackles. It sounds like we're going to be Rasheed Walker at left tackle. Okay. He filled in well last year for being he was like a 6th or 7th round pick. Yeah. He can improve a little in run pro, but he's a good pass blocker. Elgton Jenkins, that's set in stone. He's a great pass blocker. Again, everybody here, I think, could improve in the run game. Yeah. And some of that was probably just, hey, we have AJ Dillon running back here. This sucks. Josh Myers is your center. That's a meh. That's fine. He's league average, whatever. Rookie at left guard, or right guard, as I mentioned, that Jordan Morgan, he was a tackle, but they're saying he's doing fine. He looks to have won that job. There were some other guys that were pushing him. There's like a 3rd round pick from a couple years ago and somebody else. With Runyon and Bakhtiari gone, it's looking like he's going to win that job. And Zach Tom, who's a pretty damn good right tackle, again, in pass pro, very low pressure rate when he stepped in last year. And he's actually above average in run block. So it's a bunch of good, not great, and a rookie.
Okay, so I'm only at 5.5 for these guys because of a couple of things. The rookie definitely is concerned. That's a minus. I am now kind of a little skeptical when I have good grades and good ratings for players, but they were hugely available last year, right? Like you got 17 starts out of Myers, 17 out of Tom, 15 out of Jenkins, 15 out of Walker. Like that's pretty lucky that those guys were able to get the continuity that really helped them perform the way they did, particularly down the stretch. And I don't know that that's repeatable. So I'm a little bit kind of wary of my ratings. Taking a little bit of a chip out of that. And then, we'll see about putting a rookie in there. Although obviously,
I don't mind it as much at guard, especially when it's next to a very good tackle. I think Tom helps him out quite a bit. So
okay. Maybe you're right.
That's why I said this is. Well, and that's why I said this is fragile, and it probably only goes one way. Like Josh Myers taking a huge step forward, Jordan Morgan working out immediately. Yeah, I don't think I'm making some huge upgrade to this.
Yeah, I also have a huge step down to any of the backups.
Yeah, and I have to give it with the quarterback you have and how he plays. You have good enough tackles where I'm maybe not as worried about the deficiency at center and the rookie starting at guard. Like your tackles are good, above average, and you have a quarterback who's not just a statue pocket passer. I think we're going to be fine.
So your overall offensive rating for Green Bay is identical to Houston. It's better than Buffalo, better than Miami, better than the vaunted Atlanta Falcons.
That's funny.
Barely better than them, I should
71st.
say. Yeah, that's pretty good, man. What's your run stop?
For my Green Bay Packers run stop is a 3.
Okay. That's very low.
That
What?
is.
How do you get to 3? Talk me through 3.
Am I looking at the right one here?
Is Kenny Clark still around?
All right. I have Kenny Clark as good pass rush, meh, run stop.
Okay.
I have Devontae Wyatt as a bad run grade. I have
Okay.
Lucas Ness as rotational edge that hasn't done anything great.
Okay.
Basically, it's like all of my run grade being good is Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, and from there, it's tough with a rookie linebacker, Quay Walker. Xavier McKinney helps a lot, but he's still just a safety. He's your third level. Do you want him in the box constantly, or do you want to get something out of him in the coverage? So I started pretty low here. I don't have what's your TJ Slayton run grade? I don't have the middle front being very good with Wyatt, Clark, Slayton, and I'm getting more when I get more of my good run stop from the edges. I go down pretty quick, especially when my linebackers aren't very good.
I ended up with pretty good numbers on both Slayton and Clark for run stop for whatever it's worth. And I actually I'm fine moving on from Devondre Campbell personally. I think his coverage was the bigger problem though, and the run stop could ultimately be remains to be seen if they are able to kind of replace that. But I don't know. When I looked at games that were close calls in the second halves, and really just did the run stop do their job in terms of getting the stops they needed to give the the offense chances, they did. Like they were pretty effective at kind of preventing game killing drives that didn't give them a chance to come back. I thought most of my questions and issues about this Packers defense kind of came on the coverage side. So I thought the run stop was fine. We're way different. I'm at 6, you're at 3.
Really? Yeah, I have a run stop grade in the 50s for Slayton. I have this team as like the 20 to 21st best run stop team last year. They did it at times, but I don't know, just kind of the sum of the parts and the interior with the linebackers. I don't have good, my best run stop player is Xavier McKinney.
Okay. So this is the difference between keying on team stats when running. When I'm kind of trying to upweight when stopping the run matters more, right? Because I agree. Like if you look at their EPA per play stuff overall, like get rid of the win probability filter, include all the quarters, all the downs, they were below average. So there was obviously something going on. But I also always kind of assumed that the Joe Barry. Did I get it right that time for the first time ever?
Yeah.
I assumed the Joe Barry scheme was like, go ahead, waste your time running on us. You can have your.
It was a conservative, like bring it to me and we'll react to it. It's going to be a much different defense. This could go up, or should go up. But yeah, like I have TJ Slayton who was out there for like 700 snaps and almost 400 of them were run snaps.
Lightbox Barry. Thank you, Robbie. That is correct.
He was just going off PFF grades, he was your 54th best interior defender against the run last year. Kenny Clark was better, but Devontae Wyatt, who was out there for like 700 snaps, he's another one where
I'm not expecting him to get many snaps this year.
Devontae Wyatt?
Yeah.
He'll rotate. They'll rotate that front three. The defense is going to change. That's why this makes it a little hard too with Hayfley coming in. But like Devontae Wyatt is for sure going to play a decent amount. They're going to rotate through up there, and anytime they have to go heavy, he's probably going to be in there. And he was your 106th ranked run defense grade. I didn't have the big guys rating out all that well outside of Kenny Clark, and then I don't know what you said about linebackers, but I don't like any of the linebackers here. Like Quay Walker wasn't good.
You got rid of the coverage problem in Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell, but Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker, I don't have
play very much. Yeah,
I don't have Isaiah Quay Walker played almost 1,000 snaps.
Yeah, Quay Walker did. McDuffie didn't play very much. He only started 8 games.
Yeah, McDuffie was out there for about 550, and again, a lot of it wasn't. He was more coverage, off ball, but like when the run got there, he was just okay.
Interesting.
So, you know what? I'm going to take this up a little. I feel bad.
No. We don't know.
Give him a 3. I'm going to give him a 3. Well, because of the edge play, I'd still do have good grades for Gary, for, Preston. Like the edge is good enough at run stop. I'm a little light on this.
Okay. Where are you for
3.5? We're up.
3.5. Okay. Where are you for pass rush?
This is where I'm at a 7.
Wow. Okay, so I'm only at a 5. Okay, we're gonna get to the same end game here, but in very different ways for very different reasons, I guess. Rashawn, who besides Rashawn Gary do you have consistent belief is going to be able to generate pressures on this defense?
I have Gary. It's like he's clearly the best player in the front 7, right?
Clearly,
he's pressure, he's sacks, he's run.
I think
stop,
he brings
tackling.
their pass rush up to a 5 personally.
Yeah, I have Kenny Clark as a good pass rusher. I have Wyatt as a good pass rusher when they bring him in. Again, I still think he rotates in plenty. I have TJ Slayton as a decent pass rusher at nose. I think you get really good interior pressure plus Rashawn Gary. And then we'll see what we get out of Quay Walker. I don't know if we get anything there, but you're probably looking at the rookie Edgerrin Cooper playing some. Xavier McKinney can do it. You have some some corners who can do it too. You have Ngabare. Like there's some decent rotational stuff as well. I just had it as a good pass rush overall last year.
Okay, I had a high correlation between needing to blitz and getting pressure last year for them, and I don't have any guys who can consistently win.
So that's the other thing too. It is going to be a different looking front. I don't know if I am going to just have to take these numbers and throw them out the window after 2 weeks after we see what this defense looks like. I hate using preseason too much, but it'll be interesting to see what we look like when we actually get the starters out there for Green Bay.
Yeah. I never had a good read on this defense last year. Never. I never had a good read on them during the entire Barry regime or any of these kind of key players. Like it's always been a conundrum for me. So maybe this is explainable that we're just all over the freaking map here.
Overall, I had them as like the 12th best pass rush team last year.
Okay.
And they likely got a little better.
They were up there in pressure percentage.
That's the thing. Like pressure percentage, getting there. Rashawn Gary's very good. Preston Smith's good, and
they were up there.
Like I said, you didn't get shit out of Van Ness, and Gabare is clearly. How old is he? He was drafted 2 years ago, so maybe you have some upside with Kingsley and Lucas Van Ness. Some of the other guys. God, who is this guy? I think he was injured last year. Maybe I'm misspeaking. Kenneth Adomeguangu. That's a tough one. There's some tough names out there.
Not gonna work here anymore.
I haven't seen that movie in ever. All right. Well, Jesus, we've been way off coverage.
All right. 4. You're a 7? I don't know. Where are you at?
I'm a 6.
You're a 6. Okay. So you have an above average defense. I came out exactly 50th percentile. Maybe I'm just guilty of not putting enough work into this because I honestly I look at Alexander. Okay, but he's not available enough. I look at Stokes. Okay,
I know, but I hate doing that from week 1 and saying on week 1 I'm planning on Jair Alexander getting hurt 10 snaps in. If I put a percentage, he's going to get hurt. No, but that's what you do when you put a percentage on it. Because again, I'm still trying to make a week 1 number, and because I've been back and forth in my head about that, and I think this is a good thought exercise. Like, I don't know if you were doing this for the year, I don't know if you should say I'm getting 800 snaps out of Jair Alexander because that seems like folly. Yeah, I think he played 500 last year. I think he's missed time, the year before that. But for week 1, he's a top 20 corner in the league. And you have Xavier McKinney, who's a top 5 safety. I struggled to make it below average coverage just based on those two and what you got out of, Valentine wasn't exciting, but
Valentine was pretty bad.
Keyshawn Nixon was
bad. Nixon was pretty bad. I have
Nixon as average for where he was. But yeah, the rest of it's pretty rough. So it's like high end safety. high-end-ish cornerback, and then a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I think they're a little below average. And
Nixon did good as a nickel guy.
Yeah, a full kind of standout season from Alexander, and obviously I'm upgrading this. He only started 7 games last year. I don't remember even what his injuries were, but this is starting to become.
Oh my God!
He
Him
4
calling
in
his own number on
2021,
that. Remember when he
16,
announced
22,
himself as a
7 last year.
captain?
I do remember that.
Oh, they didn't know I was from. They didn't know I was from Charlotte.
I forgot about that.
He got sat down for a game for that. Javon Bullard, the rookie from Georgia. Again, rookies are hard to judge what's going to happen, but he's going to play. He's competing with another rookie and a second-year player, but he looks to be leading to start. It sounds like he's very flexible, and he can play slot corner too, which is probably helpful because I don't know how the fuck do you grade Eric Stokes? He had limited action. It's hard to grade. I don't think you can do anything except give him, hey, you're roughly league average or your replacement level at this point. So Alexander's good. Nixon is, we're talking Mendoza line for Nixon and Stokes probably. McKinney's very, very good, and then you have a rookie. Who was it that Quay Walker? I have nothing nice to say about Quay Walker. He could improve in every aspect of the game he's asked to.
I don't know that he surely makes the team. I don't know for sure. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Quay Walker. I was thinking of Wyatt. Wyatt is the guy that I'm not sure what he's bringing to the table. Maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, these guys were drafted. These were first round picks in 2022. Walker and Wyatt, and neither guy really has lived up to what the draft pedigree at all. Stokes was a first round pick in 2021. Jair Alexander was a first round pick 2018. These guys are all like misses by my numbers.
Yeah, Gary's none of the linebackers give you much in coverage.
That linebacker coverage questions. Depth looks bad, and I guess you want some silver lining for the coverage. It's an even year. In 2020, Jay Alexander was an All-Pro. In 2022, he was an All-Pro. In 2021 and 2023, he was a ghost because he could barely be available for you. But I'm very much kind of expecting this to be another one of the NFC North coverage units that gets cooked from time to time. So interesting that how different we are there. Overall, I'm at a 50% off for the defense, which is on par with the likes of the Saints of the world for me and the Eagles of the world for me. You're at a 55th percentile, which puts them. I forgot how different numbers we came up with for the Saints defense. You had a huge positive for them. 55th percentile puts them exactly on par as Houston's defense for you. So interesting. You're Houston and Green Bay. You could pretty much swap them, and you would have no idea you swapped them.
They're within 300ths of a point.
Identical, yeah.
Or 3,000ths if you have it on the other side of the decimal there. So I have them as a +5 because my special teams is a 3, my coaching is a 6. I think maybe we've revisited that next year, and my coaching is an 8 if he's really proven himself, and we're really pumped about what he did as a job. Just real quick on special teams, since we're trying to cover everything. Carlson is fine. Like, it's below average, but he's fine, if not inconsistent. He's still young. Shitty net punting average from your kicker, Whalen. Keyshawn Nixon is like, if you look at kick return numbers, it's hard because the way they sort it, it's like by volume. It's like it's a counting stat. Like, oh, good for you. You return the most kicks. Like, that's not a good metric. It's like, yeah, you returned the most kicks, he had the most yards because he had the most opportunities. If you look at some of the metrics people put together as far as like net kickoff right there, middle of the league, because if you remember, Dr. Eager used to get really mad about this. And I feel like it was a lot of times during Packers games because Nixon would never take a touchback. He always brought it out. And he'd get tackled at like the 18, 20, 22. Like, it just added extra risk for basically the same kind of starting field position. I think overall they had decent starting field position. Some of that came with punts.
So what was your special teams number?
No, I was going. It's still a 3.
Oh, but 3. I'm sorry.
I do like him in the new kickoff rules.
Okay.
I think he's good. It's just he he was good when it went well, but there's so many times where you should have just taken a knee, buddy.
Wow. Okay. I like it. No,
Yeah,
that's
punt returning's a negative.
What's your intangible number?
6.
6. Okay. No disagreement, really. I'm a little lower than you. I'm 5.5. And also, ultimately, it's more of a I don't know what to do with the defense because I just don't have a number for that guy. So we'll see. We'll see if he's any good. Final answer. You have Green Bay as a 64th percentile team, which would make them a plus 4.5. I have them as a 61st percentile team, which would be a plus 3.5. But again, because of the volatility potentially at the quarterback OC number, this has a potential to change as we go through the season. And I mean, looking at the schedule, it has a potential to go up between the opener and their bye. What would you say?
Yeah, fun one to start the season in Brazil. And then
Brazil.
I mean, what? 8 straight games that you would win. Your toughest game in there being the Houston and Detroit games that come right before the bye, but both of those are at home. You get early home games against some of these teams that are as good as you. Obviously, being a 2.5 or 1.5 point favorite in those games implies roughly around the same power rating. I don't know about being a dog to Chicago. We'll see how Chicago's looking at that point. A little tougher there. The fact that it is Chicago, that it's a division rival, that might be a decent team, that's not a great stretch. At Chicago and then San Fran, Miami, at Detroit, at Seattle. Even if Seattle is below average, it's still a double back-to-back.
Yeah, that's your prove-it quarter.
And not only that, but that Miami game the Detroit game is a short week. So, no, it's not. You go Thanksgiving to Thursday.
You guys are both on Thanksgiving to Thursday schedule, so equal rest.
Scratch that, and then you get the extra rest. You should be able to do what you did last year. It's funny, Minnesota, Chicago were your final 2 games last year. New Orleans rather than Carolina. 2 of them at home, and Minnesota being an indoor game, so should be able to cruise. Maybe you cruise through those last 4 and you're sitting pretty into the playoffs. But, other than that, you don't have I don't think you get anyone off their bye. It doesn't look like it does suck playing at Chicago whenever, but at least you're off your bye there. Overall, it's not terrible besides the, why is the San Francisco game? Oh, you'd have the advantage there because they're probably on a back-to-back.
Travel, yeah.
That helps. I believe I'll double check that, but San Francisco coming in on a back-to-back perhaps there because
back-to-back roadies for Niners, yeah.
Yeah, significant travel advantage. And
you're traveling a lot early in the season. That could be tough on a young team.
Yeah, Tennessee, Rams is a longer flight. Tennessee's not terrible. Rams out to the coast. Jacksonville's so far south.
Obviously, the flight to Brazil kind of sets the table for all that.
Yeah, Brazil's even further than Tennessee. The nice part about the Brazil game is it's not like, all right, we just get the shit beat out of us for 60 minutes. We're icing up, seeing the trainers. Let's get on a plane for a fucking foreign country. It is. Yeah, everybody got to sit for the final preseason. I would assume the Green Bay strategy for the final preseason game is if you're playing in Brazil, you're probably not playing in this preseason game because we got a long trip. Let's get everyone healthy, rested, and on a plane down to, Sao Paulo, Brasilia. Yeah. Where are they playing? Rio de Janeiro.
No, Sao Paulo.
Is it Sao Paulo?
Sao Paulo. Do you ever remember a team having a stretch of 4 games in a row in primetime? We're going to get a healthy dose of Jordan Love and company at the end of this season. We get a lot of spicy opinions, good or bad, about this Green Bay team heading into that playoff push. Thanksgiving, 8 p.m., Thursday, 8 p.m., Sunday, 8 p.m., Monday, 8 p.m. You got 4 straight primetimers. That feels rare. It's going to be a lot of pack. It's going to be a lot of cheese. Be sure to, manage your diet if you are lactose intolerant.
Yeah, I feel like
you get a healthy amount of cheese in the month of December.
I was about to say this. The Jets feel like they did that last year. Probably 2 different times.
I don't know if it was 4 in a row. 4 straight is a lot. Like, but I mean, realistically, that should help you. Like, you're going to be kind of used to playing in primetime, and none of those other teams are. New Orleans, Seattle, Detroit, no.
You can sleep
Like,
in for
Detroit
a month.
plays in the morning on that Thursday at Thanksgiving. Like, it's going to be, you're going to have a body clock advantage. You should, at least in a lot of those games. All right, let's talk about betting these guys then. Having said all this, and you being even more bullish than I am on these Packers, do you think that it makes sense to take them to win the NFC? Right now, they are I'm living in the world here still where unless you're the Niners, if we're betting you to do well, we're talking about NFC. If you're an NFC team, we're talking about Super Bowl if you're an AFC team, because the likelihood that the Packers get to the Super Bowl and are anything better than pick'em is low. And so I think we're really just shopping for an NFC price. Packers right now are plus 835 to win the NFC. I think that's 100% conditional on them having at least 2 home playoff games, if not for the number 1 overall seed. So everyone has to come through Lambeau. Right now, plus 835 looks pretty appetizing compared to say a Niners plus 285. I got to think. But it's a bigger number than the Cowboys, who we have some reservations about. It's a bigger number than the Eagles, who have obviously a lower downside. And it's a bigger number than the Detroit Lions. Their division price right now is plus 252. Any of these things appealing to you about taking a bet now on the Packers, particularly considering if they get that win in Brazil against Philadelphia, you could be talking about an 8-1 team at the bye, realistically.
You'd probably accrue some value, but no, I think those are fair numbers. I'm not excited about like taking that and trying to weasel my way out of that at some point. I wish it were a little bigger. I kind of looked at, what I was thinking about as I laid in bed this morning. I was like, I wonder if there's prices that I could Dutch for Detroit finishes 4th in the NFC South or North, and Green Bay finishes 4th. I want both of those prices combined because those teams are both kind of fragile, and there's some nice upside to obviously Vikings and Bears, and I think there's definitely situations where both of those teams are like, 1 or 2 things happens and it just spirals, but I don't know if I love it as much with this Green Bay schedule. It's not terrible.
Okay. The Green Bay Packers win total is 9.5. The over is juicy as hell, as this is one of the offseason darlings. Make missed the playoffs. I'm guessing Make is like -2 something. -200 exactly. Plus 158 to miss. None of that really inspires me. So yeah, I guess are we going to be in the position where we are taking positions against this Packers team, even if they find success in the regular season come January?
I mean, even with that tough little stretch there, probably not, because they have an easy landing into the playoffs too. They don't have the dreaded, let's say we have a great season, but Detroit's just a little better. It's not like they have that road game to end the season where they'd go back-to-back roadies into wild card weekend. Like I said, I think they're probably pretty properly rated. If you like them, maybe look at them for best record. Look for the fringe stuff. Look for the bigger prices, best record, last undefeated, top seed, coach of the year wasn't a big enough number, but the Love MVP number is probably too depressed at this point to really consider it in that part too. But some of those were, maybe an alt win total as well. I don't know. Then I was talking to somebody about that too. Like when alt win totals aren't as good as what they used to be. Do you remember how bad those were at like 5 dimes?
I don't really want to talk about
5 years. 5 years ago.
I don't want to talk about it.
It's like,
I don't want to think about
it. They might win 2 more games. Than
it felt too good to be true because you did the math and you were like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was like,
how is this free money? Like, what? This can't be. We must have made a mistake.
Right now, Packers over 11.5 is plus 275. Now, I might be talking out of turn here, and I might be talking out of school, but it feels like some of those times where it was like 2 wins better than their win total, it was like 4 to 1.
Yeah, it was big numbers.
There was like 4 to 1s where you could just bet 11.5 and under 7.5 at 4 to 1 each, and you did that enough times, and it actually came out in the wash ahead if you would have bet every. I think we figured that out after the season because you saved the numbers. You could have bet every 2 game above and 2 game below on all
across the
32
whole
teams.
board, and you
I
would.
needed just one money. It wasn't like
Yeah.
it wasn't like get rich, but it was like a 10% ROI.
It wasn't
blindly betting.
It wasn't 2 wins. It was 1. You basically, if you created a
Just one?
2-game middle, you didn't have to have a 4-game middle. You had a 2-game middle. Yeah, you would have won money. Yeah.
Packers to win 14 games or more is 12-1. I don't know if that's enough.
I don't think so. I'm more interested in the downside case and whether if things aren't going well for them early because of the travel or because of who the hell knows what, if the market gives up on them as quickly as they did last year, in which case maybe we're talking buy low at these guys in the middle of the season because
fewest wins, 120-1.
No, I don't. No, what have we learned? Jordan Love is a second half guy.
It's true. Here's a fun one. It's a 3-way market with a tie. Green Bay plus Minnesota matchup as far as bets, wins for the season. But making it a 3-way market is silly, and I hate it. 9, maybe 9-1 that it ties. Minnesota and Green Bay have the same amount of wins. I don't know if I hate that. We're gonna have to revisit this when they both win 9 games.
They were a 9-win team last year. Minnesota would have been if they had a quarterback.
No bets on Green Bay for me. I love them. Right. I'll bet them week to week in certain spots, but nothing right now.
Just out of curiosity to close the pod about to put a nail in the second half point I was making. Among all quarterbacks with at least 100 plays, EPA per play last year, where did Jordan Love land in the second half of football games?
4th.
Ooh, very close. He was 3rd, only bested by Josh Allen and Brock Purdy.
He was behind Lamar, or ahead of Lamar.
He was ahead of Lamar. He was ahead of.
Where was Lamar? 5th or
Dak. Lamar. Second halves was 24th in EPA per play.
I don't.
Lamar's EPA per play numbers last year were not very impressive.
They got some weird leads against some bad teams.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one to contextualize a little. So.
Yeah. Pretty easy to convince yourself that was all Mike McDonald.
Green Bay so far, and other teams need tweaking, but Green Bay is my 9th best team.
Ooh.
They are ever so slightly behind the Houston Texans.
We have a disagreement, by the way, for week 1. It looks like your members say bet Green Bay, mine say Philly, but we're both under the key of 3, so we're not going to probably bet it.
Yeah, it's crazy how close they are to my Philly numbers. So
let's wrap this up. We've been way over time here. Let's go talk some Detroit Lions.
I'm not even going to let the whole music play, guys. I'll tell you that much. Hit the thumbs up. I'm hitting the end stream right now. We'll catch you over there in the Lions stream.